Welcome to the Three Wise Men of Divorce, Money, Psych, and Law podcast. Sit down with the California divorce experts, financial divorce consultant Mark Hill, psychologist Scott Weiner, and attorney Shawn Weber for a frank and casual conversation about divorce, separation, co-parenting, and the difficult decisions real people like you face during these tough times. We know that if you are looking at divorce or separation, it can be scary and overwhelming. With combined experience of over 70 years in divorce and conflict management, we are here for you and look forward to helping by sharing our unique ideas, thoughts, and perspectives on divorce, separation, and co-parenting. Okay, we're here for another week of the Three Wise Men of Divorce. Guys, this week it's summer. As we're speaking now, 4th of July is about to happen. We're recording this on July 3rd. People are having barbecues. It's hot outside. People are playing outside. The beaches are filling up with people. It's this wonderful, exciting summer, except, oh, wait.
Is there a problem?
We have that problem, and it's called COVID-19. And so this week's podcast is custody, co-parenting, COVID-19, and the cruel hot summer. Did you like how I got some alliteration in that title?
I like that. You did very well. Yeah.
I got 4 C's in a row.
Congratulations. Sounds like my report cards.
We've done it. Yeah. But no, seriously. So every place is doing this a little differently. I mean, we're in San Diego and I'm looking outside my office. We're close to the water here and I see the airplanes flying over with the banners. The beaches are full. The beach parking lot here is really full. People are experiencing summer, but then we read in the newspaper that there's spikes, and I don't want to get all, like whether we should go out or not, have that conversation. But what we do have is sometimes you have parents with different points of view about what kind of safety measures their families should be taking. And maybe it was hard enough when they were still married to agree on things like this, but now they're living in separate households and they don't see eye to eye, but yet they're sharing children.
I'm hearing about it every week.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm hearing about it in session. I got a call for a new case today about this might be a highly problematic mediation because there's different standards in another state north of us from our standards here. And a community that is fairly remote is where that one parent lives and is making the actually relatively valid argument that it's safer there. And however, it's what we call a long-term divorce, a divorce that never really managed to resolve over a decade. And even the children are growing long in the tooth as the battle wages on. But it is frankly a COVID issue, and they're going to be discussing it in court in about a week. And the courts have just opened up here, so there are, I don't know how they got a court date, but it is also my job, Shawn, to talk to you about whether you know a certain attorney or not, and whether you think that person might be amenable to trying to mediate out some of these things. But yeah, I'm hearing about this. It's happening. It is a hot, cruel summer, and there is no surety that anybody knows really what's best. So.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, is there's no consensus on how to deal with this. And there's absolutely no case law on how to handle differing opinions on co-parenting during the COVID crisis, because it's brand new. It's a case of first impression for all of us. And so there would never have been, to get a case law, there'd have to be a case, and then there would have to be an appeal of that case, and then there would have to be a decision. And we are so far from that ever happening.
Some kind of a related factor. If the case, the wording is going to have to do with something like protecting from obvious dangers, but you go.
Well, and there in the code, in the family code in California, at least, you can change a custody order if there is substantial evidence that there is irreparable harm.
Right.
And you could do that on an emergency basis if you have that evidence. But how do we agree whether there's substantial evidence of irreparable harm? And harm to whom?
Only after they're on a ventilator, perhaps.
Right? I mean, I don't know. I feel for the judges that are, I know they're getting these cases because I'm hearing them in my office every day. What are these judges? How are they going to react to this? And I mean, the consensus I've been hearing from the bar, at least in San Diego, is they're taking a dim view of parents who will use the COVID crisis as a reason to prevent someone from having parenting time. I think that a lot of them view it as a manipulation, but I don't know that that's necessarily fair either, because somebody could be legitimately concerned. Maybe they're in a high risk category, or maybe they've got family members in a high risk category.
Maybe the child is in a high risk category.
Maybe the child's in a high risk category.
For sure, that would be the most obvious case. Yeah,
that would be the biggest no brainer of all, is if it was the child that was in danger. But I did have one where it was a step parent. So wife's or ex-wife's new husband is in a high-risk category and can't get COVID. It would kill him. And the biological father, the ex-husband, doesn't care and is taking the kids, to restaurants and without a mask and going to the beach or whatever, having a good old time out there. And then these children who have been out in the world with dad's more lackadaisical approach are now coming into the home with high risk stepfather. And who does the court have a duty to protect? To protect the stepfather or to protect the kids?
What a summer.
What a mess. So Can they even get into court is my question. Would it have to be an emergency hearing?
I think, I mean, it would have to be an emergency hearing. I doubt that you would get a lot of relief in an emergency hearing, because I think the judges are taking a dim view of it.
So what else can you do, counselor?
I think what the judge probably would tell this couple, is, the child's not in danger. You may have to decide not to exercise custody. I'm sorry, but maybe the kids just need to stay with dad. So now this is rewarding kind of the jerky behavior of the dad. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, in the case that Shawn is presenting, aren't we essentially in agreement that stepdad is opportunistically trying to, or the biodad is opportunistically trying to, hostilely harm the other,
Yeah, I think he'd be just fine if something horrible happened to the new dad.
Well,
to the stepdad.
So, I mean, what do we talk about every week? We talk about different ways to, negotiate things out. And but when somebody is actually, of bad intent and hiding under the mask of a current health crisis.
No pun intended.
Yes, as it were. I don't know some judge may penetrate that and call it for what it is. But when you say, Mark, what could we do about that? I mean,
process.
Do you think that, I'm assuming bad intent in the first place. So yeah, sure, we could get him in to negotiate, but why would they bother? It's serious, allowed bad faith.
Well, I mean, I think what I would say here is I think that situation's kind of rare where you have somebody that's much of a jerk. I think generally people want to get along, but this issue has become politically polarized.
Yeah.
People view wearing a mask as a political statement now, or not wearing a mask as a political statement.
Yep.
And it's happening.
I'm a little
with these
shocked.
families.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked, Shawn, at what you just said. That I'm shocked at what my partner Shawn just said, that he thinks that people generally just want to get along. We have seen so many people that go out of their way
not to get along.
And yes, and to, obstruct others. And now I think that there's a bridge too far on that one. I think very many times when people claim, parental alienation, that parent who just got alienated did something to, help that along, but sometimes not. And we've had cases drop out of collaborative when people really were of bad intent.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so
I guess the major question is there a better forum to discuss these issues? Some of them very difficult, some of them maybe even involving bad intent. Is there a better forum to discuss these issues than doing it with a judge?
I would say yes. I would say if you are having to co-parent, that requires interaction. You're going to have contact with this other person for as long as you have minor children. Can't avoid it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to have misery for that time? And is this your only opportunity to pay them back for their terrible behavior? Or do you want to
I'll find all kinds of opportunities to pay them
back. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm
not done.
I got the money guy and the lawyer here, and I'm this soft therapist guy, and I'm the cynic. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Look at what these people.
All right, but let's not, pee on Mark's cornflakes. Let's give him an opportunity to talk about what he was going to say. Yeah.
Well, tell me what you would like me to say, counselor, and then I will basically interject.
No, I'm amazed that
who let this curmudgeon in here anyway?
Really? You know why it is? It's 5 o'clock on a Friday. He's just cranky after a long week.
That's what it is. Okay, I'm sorry. That was fun, actually. But Mark, what do you want to do?
I have no recollection of what I was saying. So
we were talking about, are they going to be better off in court or not? And you say no, they could go somewhere else.
I'm going to say categorically no, because you have to have a relationship. You can't. And yes, there are some people who want to basically use it for retribution. But they're rare. Like you were saying, Shawn, I'm not as cynical as the good doctor over there. But I think that most people would prefer to get along if they could. Now, some, as you say, will carry that torch until they die. And we've all had clients like that.
Oh, yeah. I'd rather be a big part of the problem than a small part of the solution. Those kind of people.
Exactly. Yeah, I had a lady who is, 12 years since we finally had Jam settle her case, calling me up saying, trying to go after stuff for her ex-husband. No kidding. I asked her how her children was. Oh, they don't talk to me anymore. Well, I'm not surprised. That's the true story.
But I mean, there are these people that are just, awful, but I think most people don't want to be awful. They just don't see things the same way. And one person might be like, that's why they got divorced. Right. They had different parenting styles to begin with. One may be like, I have a case this morning that mom's a real mother bear, real protective of the kids. And the dad's a little more lackadaisical about things. And one's not worse than the other necessarily. And when you're under the same household, sometimes having two different perspectives is good and refreshing. But when they're divorced, it now becomes a source of conflict. So, and really what they want to do is they want to get along for the benefit of the kids. They just see things fundamentally differently. So then what do we do now?
Well, of course, we just invite them in and they peaceably mediate and they
fall at the altar of alternative dispute resolution.
Oh, Shawn, oh, Mark, oh, Scott, I've been so wrong. They'll say,
I finally see the light.
No, they never say they're wrong. They're always right? Even when they're wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Because they believe most people when they're parenting and they have a parenting dispute, they're not saying, I believe that I'm wrong. Usually they believe they're right. But maybe they find a higher purpose in not fighting. And that is, we want to make sure that the kids don't experience a terrible situation where we're fighting.
The divorce story, right? What story do you want your kids to tell out about divorce 15, 20 years from now?
Right. So we've got this problem where we don't see eye to eye. And it may not be COVID. It could be anything, right? We don't see eye to eye. I say get him into somebody like the good Dr. Weiner here. He won't be so cynical in person. Maybe.
Well, if they actually come in, the kind of case I'm talking about.
Well, they wouldn't come in, right?
I don't believe. I mean, I just got the call on it today. Honest to goodness.
Yeah.
I really do not believe that I'm going to be able to get them in. I don't believe it. And There are claims of alienation, and one of the parents has gone out of her or his or her way over a period of a decade to be as difficult to the ex as possible. And that parent has been married again and divorced again. And
so COVID didn't cause this. This was a pre-existing condition.
No, that's true. That's true.
COVID is just another opportunity to fight.
That's right.
Yes,
now,
because here's the
I realize that. Go ahead.
When what is left to fight about in divorce? It's not the money anymore, generally, because that's settled. You can't go back on that. So that's off the table. And they fought about that for a long time, and that satisfied that fight need.
Oh, that's like the person I talked to. Don't take my hatred away. It's all I have left.
Exactly. And so what you end up with is a situation where people are hanging on to what remains of contact between and any possible opportunity to show that they're the right and the other person is wrong. And what's left is the poor children stuck in the middle.
Well, that's what I'm seeing in this particular set of events. Yes.
Okay, so you're out in the audience and you're listening to this and you're thinking, geez, I'm in that situation. I've got somebody on the other side that doesn't agree with me on COVID. What am I going to do? So you could choose to be these horrible people that you're describing.
Right. And I realized that some of our rhetoric together had, yanked me laterally into, into that other part of the universe. But as we are speaking of the COVID issue and, people's different perceptions of danger and, whether it's political spectrum or whatever, there is a broad set of claims. There is room to negotiate most things like this, though. If people are actually caring about the other person a little bit anymore, if there is that, you can discuss it in terms of your own comfort. A person could do that, but you'd have to engender a discussion, and we could they could go to divorce options to even get started at it, or some kind of way to begin a discussion.
So there would have to be some kind of ability to empathize with the other person's position, right? Or at least some kind of an effort.
The one thing I found that I generally can get the other spouse to say is they want the person that they're no longer going to be with to be able to be a good parent.
I buy that. I think you're right. Yeah.
And so that's sometimes a starting point, I find, for, I want him to be a good parent. He's a shitty parent, but I want him to be a good one. Okay, great. I'm really glad to hear that, because that's good for your kids. Now tell me, how can we help him be a better parent? And you turn around the thinking about how we're approaching it, as opposed to he's a bad person, he needs to be punished, and we need to take the kids away from him, to I want him to be a better parent, so what can I do to make that happen? Is that unreasonable for me to think that, Scott? It's
not unreasonable to think that. I think that your first claim is what I'm certain I agree with. Yeah. They still love their kids, even if they're jerks, even if they're whatever, they still do. But I realize that I'm perhaps a little bit swayed by today's events, in my own phone calls today. But I imagine if you give somebody an opportunity to explain how the other person could be a parent, might turn into quite a lecture. But perhaps not. As long as, interactively, what we would do in the office, and any one of us would do this, I'm sure, is like, be sure that, all right, now how could you help so-and-so to, start to create that parity and that balance. That
try to change the conversation from you, to you, the children.
Yeah.
Or here's an idea. To what extent can you change the conversation to we need to?
Yeah, we.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we do collaborative, one of the first things we do is try to build a mission statement. And I think I've said before in our meetings that at first I thought that was bogus, and now I know it is absolutely core.
I had this case years ago where, what really anchored them was wanting to be able, it was important to them as a value to be able to co-parent and to be partners as they parent their children. And so this couple has a lot going on, but they keep coming back to, okay, yeah, that's happening, but it's really important to me that we get along for the kids, that we do this.
And that's generally, I would say, more often than not, that is the case, as cynical as we can be after a bad day.
That was nice of you to say we that way.
Well, I can be that way too. Just wait till next week.
All right. Okay.
But, I mean, how many people have ever said, I really want my children to be unhealthy?
No, they don't say that. They say they load onto the other parent. Well, he does this, and if
she
he
does
only,
it, right.
that is just, and no wonder the kids don't want to go over there. No wonder they don't. And so sometimes they do, but this person says it over and over and over again. And I've seen that turn into almost a hypnotic suggestion that, yeah, it becomes true. But if somebody has one iota of good intent toward that other parent, such as Mark was mentioning, wanting them to be a better parent, we have some leverage. We can get a start.
But you don't understand, Scott. This person is really, really toxic and horrible, and I cannot. You don't understand what they're doing to my kids.
Well, I would probably need to hear from you about that. But you understand that I'm going to talk to her too, because I'm trying to help you both work this out. So whatever you say about her, I want you to be sure to be as accurate as you can, please.
Yeah. I think you guys have hit on something, though. There is a higher level of thinking that people ought to try to aspire to. And I know I sound like I'm preaching now, but I'm going to do it anyway. But just kind of this aspiring to a higher level of thinking that is more than about how offended I am, or how upset I am, or how angry I am, or hurt by I am.
How justified I am in that anger.
And how, yeah.
That's where that's what gets difficult for me when I come up against someone who is so convinced that they are justified in behaving this way, and that to behave in any other way would almost be a dereliction of duty.
Again, sorry to bore you guys to death on this, but that case that I'm dealing with, or I may be dealing with beginning today, not only is one parent doing what I'm saying, but that parent has found an attorney who is not only playing along, but exaggerating it, pulling stunts with timing and things like that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And
because there's some attorneys out there, now you don't even realize it's happening. They become extensions of the disorder of the parent. You have a parent that's naturally high conflict and wants to raise Cain, and they will be attracted to an attorney that will become an extension of that, become a really negative advocate in the case, and will become part of the problem and actually amplify the problem, as opposed to someone who could say to their client, what you're doing here is, maybe we ought to talk about taking the high road. Maybe that would be better for your family. And that's how I used to do when I litigated. I would say to people, you're going to always do better when you take the high road. And so this really angry approach that you're taking is going to be less helpful. And early in my career, I was very happy to fire off some nasty letter or, do the sneak attack. And then I learned that did tremendous damage. So the more experienced, more emotionally intelligent attorneys won't let their clients do that. But there's a lot of attorneys out there that relish it. And so when you're seeking counsel, I would tell the public this, when you're seeking counsel, don't necessarily look for the person that's always looking for an angle to hurt the other side, but look for somebody that's going to be an advocate for the family system to be healthy. This is not a property boundary dispute. This is your children, and so what can you do to make sure that your kids are okay? Are they really going to benefit from increased conflict? And the answer is usually no. Okay, so we this is like every case, whether it's COVID or not, right?
Yeah.
So what does COVID add to this whole system that we're living in that makes it harder for people to figure out how to get along?
Well, I have an example of a COVID situation.
Okay.
Okay, couple going through divorce, still in the same house. One has been called back to work. It's the wife. She's back to work. Husband is now 100% caregiver to the children because his job has not been called back. Also, she's now earning money and he still has no income. And that's becoming a challenge of how the funds are used. How do you deal with something like that?
And was he previously the higher earner by chance?
Very similar levels.
They were similar. Okay.
Very similar, yeah.
So she's been called back to work and he's now home, can't get work.
Still furloughed.
And so what's that doing to the family dynamic? Aside from the fact that they don't have as much money as they used to have.
Well, the money is a problem because she is earning it and saying she can dictate. I mean, the bills are getting paid, and they both make decent money. So it's not like they're, having a problem and they're going to end up being evicted or anything like that. But she complains about how he parents the kids, and he is having a hard time with 2 children in the house who are, I think they're like 9 and 11 or something.
Are they legally separate yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
So it's still all community property.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, you said they still cohabit?
They still cohabit. I mean, they approached me maybe 2 months ago and they haven't moved forward, but I got a call telling me about the updates, from husband, as it turned out, who's home with the kids, and I can hear him in the background, raising hell,
Oh, he's raising Cain and you can hear it.
I could hear the kids in the background just, going crazy, 8-year-old and 11-year-old, something like that, I think. And they're 2 boys.
Well, there's so much here that you're hitting on. You're hitting on money problems. You're hitting on, oh my gosh, we're sequestered in our house together.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're hitting on, he's not used to maybe being home with the kids this much because he used to work full time outside of the house.
And the kids would go to daycare and school,
Maybe he feels emasculated because mom's earning money and he's not. Boy.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dr. Weiner?
Boy. Well, this is a COVID reality, isn't it? I mean, with the additional features of the pressure cooker, of everybody being home, a furloughed person who isn't accustomed to being a full-time parent, getting judgments from the other one. And Mark, you're hearing it over the phone and you're kind of wondering if...
And I'm hearing one side. I haven't spoken to the wife. Her story is going to be totally different about what's going on. That's the nature of divorce.
What? You mean there's 2 sides to every story?
No, there's 3.
There's 3, right?
It's her story, his story, and what really happened.
Well, what's her point of view? Her point of view is, we can guess, right? I'm the only one that's providing for this family. Yeah. I'm going to go out and work, and then I'm coming home, and it's chaos at home. And I just want to relax because I've been working and fighting the fight all day, and he can't even get the dishes done by the time I get home.
Bingo. And the children he's not making sure they do their chores and their stuff that she would when she's home. And he's just like, I wouldn't say he's a Disneyland dad, but he's kind of laissez-faire, he's like...
He just sits them in front of Netflix and lets them watch God knows
It's the summer, he was saying to me, it's the summer, they got the summer off. I turned the summers off. Why is it such a big deal,
Well, and what are they going to do in the summer?
Exactly.
Normally, when you got the summer, the kids can go outside and blow off some steam.
And go to camp.
And now maybe there isn't even camp.
And the camps that are you comfortable in sending your children to them? And would the couple agree about which camp to say? Oh my gosh, there you go. There's the whole COVID extra dimension.
Some of the waterfront camps are opening up after 4th of July in San Diego. The beaches have completely different rules. Going from Oceanside wide open, Carlsbad City somewhat open, Carlsbad State Beach fairly closed, coming down toward Leucadia. I mean, it's every beach, the rules are different from community to community. There's all this ambiguity, and it's,
That's the tragedy of what's going on in the United States. I'm an Englishman. I talked to my sisters in England, and they had a terrible time with COVID like we did. But you know what? They have rules, national rules, and now they shut down various small areas when it breaks out, and they test and trace because they have a national standard. We don't have that. We've got borders between states, and states having to try and work out what to do on their own, and nobody agrees.
Well, and the communities within those states aren't even agreeing.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, well, that's just it. I mean, people see things very differently. I mean, I talked to some of my family members who, frankly, it does fall on political grounds how people are reacting to COVID.
It really does.
Which is a shame.
And I have family members, I'm never going to wear a mask. They can't make me wear a mask. And then I also know people like, oh my gosh, you're a horrible citizen if you don't put a mask on. And, on this program, I don't want to take a position as to who's right, although you might suspect what I think. People are not able to have a reasonable conversation about it because they've allowed themselves to go into camps. And I think that's happening times 10 when you're talking about a married couple that disagrees on this.
True.
And I think people are losing their crap generally because it's just been stressful. The economy's been crazy. The unemployment is up. We just had a press conference where we celebrated that we were at 11% unemployment. That was wonderful. This is amazing. Better than expected news. We're at 11% unemployment.
But did you hear the other part?
No.
We added 4 million jobs, right?
Yeah.
1.2 million in new claims. They didn't mention that. 1.2 million this week.
My point is, it's awfully stressful out there. And then you add a race riot or 20, and the reactions to those race riots, and people are losing their crap. I mean, all you have to do is spend a little bit of time on Facebook, just kind of reading your feed, and you can see all this stuff. And then people are locked up at home. Some of them can work, some of them can't work, or maybe they go to work and they're afraid they're going to catch COVID, or maybe they're just angry that everybody else thinks they're going to catch COVID. And there's conspiracy theories on every side, and people are losing their minds. And then you throw into that a divorce and the conflict that sometimes comes with a divorce or co-parenting decisions, and it's a perfect storm.
And it can be overwhelming, can't it? I mean, it really can. And when they're overwhelmed, do not make good decisions.
No, they don't. And maybe that's the point.
Yeah.
I mean, I would send people to Scott here, and I would say, you need to spend some time with Scott, and I want you to work on how you cope with the stress that you're feeling so that you can make rational choices. Because what I want you to do when you come into my office and you're mediating, I want you to bring your best, most rational self, not the one that is filled with cortisol and in the fight or flight mode and not thinking clearly. How would you help a person like that, Scott?
Well, it depends on which flavor of inability to manage rational decisions you're seeing. The case I was talking about earlier, I would have to seriously query the intent. I would have to directly address it and say, all right, we have to talk about that first. If you really intend ill toward your ex, I'm probably not going to be able to help you. If you're angry with that person, okay, we can talk about that. But if you can see that in the long run, your children will be better off if both parents are okay, and that anything that you can do opportunistically to make things worse for the other person devolves down to your kids. And then I like Mark's idea of what is your story going to be in the longest of long runs about this divorce? What are your kids going to say? What are they going to think?
Just having an anchor, right, that they can grab on.
I mean, I can use calm generalizations with people. I can say, well, all right, some people would say this, and this under these circumstances. Others might, and introduce a different thread to them without accusing them of ill intent. But anyway, I think we're getting close to wind up time. It is a hot
Yeah,
summer.
I'd like to keep going on. I mean, this is an interesting conversation for me, and maybe we can talk more about it next week. But I mean, people are living this stuff, guys, don't you think?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Scott, if they wanted to have that meeting with you,
They would call me. That's what they would do, because I'm this old guy who's not all web like you youngsters. And they would call me at 619-417-5743. I'm Dr. Scott Weiner, and they could call me.
And I'm Mark Hill, and you can reach me by going to my website, because I am a prepubescent plus 60-year-old who actually can handle the internet. Yes, so go to pacdivorce.com, pacdivorce.com, and got any questions about money and divorce, feel free to take advantage of my free 15-minute consultation.
I am a Generation Xer, but my kids still say, okay, boomer to me. I'm kind of insulted by that. But I am a Gen X guy. I don't want to be like you people.
Oh, but
if you wanted to reach me, you would go to my very technologically advanced website with amazing information and multimedia at WeberDisputeResolution.com. That's Weber with one B, DisputeResolution.com. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Three Wise Men of Divorce: Money, Psych, and Law. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share with others who may be in a similar place. Until next time, stay safe, healthy, and focused on a positive, bright future. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Every family law case is unique, so no legal, financial, or mental health advice is intended during this podcast. If you need help with your specific situation, feel free to schedule a time to speak with one of us for a personal consultation.